All right, click the links. You join the channel here, become a member over on subscribe. Thanks to the recent support over there. So keep in mind before we go into this, the atrocities that is what they did to Henry Cavill and everyone else at Disney, I guess. But people kind of seem to like. I like Henry Cavill too. Even like I didn't know much about him before I kind of went down this rabbit hole, and the more I looked into it, I thought, there's a lot going on here. Keep this in mind that Warner Brothers is somehow still open to Ezra Miller playing the Flash. There's got to be something else going on here. Either there's the schism of this disconnect that is as big as the Grand Canyon between the people who are calling the shots on this and what the public perception is of what looks to be a crazy person. He did an interview. You can YouTube search Gal Gadot and Ezra Miller, and they do this interview together talking about the Justice League movie, which is a movie you probably forgot immediately as you got outside it. Though I will say the 4-hour Snyder Cut version is legitimately a better film, but it's everything from the mainstream in the past 10 years is going to be very forgettable. He came across as a crazy person, which I think he is, and I hope he. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks that he's in that position for sure. And the thing is, if he's legitimately crazy in a lot of his behavior, it's like, well, he doesn't have the state of mind to know what he's doing. That's kind of the definition of crazy. So you can't really hate the guy. But it also doesn't mean that you put him in your movie, and that you don't get rid of him. None of that is making sense to me, unless people jokingly say, "Oh, he's got blackmail on people." It's like, no, he doesn't, because there's nothing people in Hollywood do that they're ashamed of. I mean, these are the same people who fly to Epstein's Island. It's like they do the worst thing you can possibly imagine. And what are the consequences of that? Well, I mean, he gets taken out of the equation, I guess, him and his partner in the French prison. But the co-leader of that, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's in prison. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. So what? But what are the other consequences of that? Like all the other people involved. And it's like, what other people involved? Oh, yeah. It's just like 3 people went to prison and 2 got deleted, but like no one else, none of the clients got deleted. Anyway, my point is with blackmail, it's like I don't think that explains it, because I mean, does he literally have videos of these people like throwing babies into the fires of Moloch, like opening up a rift in space time and conjuring forth demons? Is that hyperbolic or not? Like, almost. Like, you can look at these people and think, I'm not saying that you can do these type of things, but if anyone could, it would be the people in Hollywood. Anyway, so Henry Cavill was the perfect age to play Superman God Emperor. So what happened? And why is, as they say here, why'd they get rid of everyone else but kept Ezra Miller? And I will say that if the Flash movie that's coming out, if that does well, I will have lost all hope in humanity. As if, like, was there any? I mean, if it does well, then I'll just look at the people who paid money to go to support that. As I look at people who pay money to support any mainstream pop culture entertainment made by these demon people, and I look at them like, you guys are the problem, because you're funding the problem. You're funding these people, their lifestyle. It's like you're paying. Oh, Batman and what was the other one? The Batman and that other movie, Spider-Man, did well. It's like, oh, those were decent movies. They weren't that woke. So they replaced all the characters except for the main characters. I mean, they race swapped all the characters in Spider-Man at least, and you guys are supporting that. Oh, when you put it that way, I guess they were kind of. I mean, yeah, they did swap it. Yeah. Obviously, it's like I don't know. Sometimes it's like not everyone is down the rabbit hole. I get that, but I don't know. People just, I guess they just want their popcorn stuff, and it's just disappointing that more people are not like, well, I don't know. To be fair, it's like those movies made monies, but I don't think they were like mega massive monster hits. Just because the cost of making movies is so ridiculous now. Like to make 700, $800 million now is not what it used to be. Anyway, so first of all, if you read comic books, then you already know the origin story of characters. We know the origin of the main characters for sure. At least Superman, Batman, Spider-Man are well covered. Even people who hate comic books at least have picked it up from secondary sources. We never need to see those characters' beginnings ever again. The other character is fine. If you can make it interesting and it fits within the 90 minutes of the story, go for it. Iron Man in 2008 worked great because the trilogy incorporated everything together, and you had three really good actors in the main role of that trilogy. And that's a less well known character, at least to the general movie going population, than the other characters I mentioned. Though to me, that was one of the best characters. Iron Man and Daredevil was fantastic, and they made a Daredevil movie, and they made an Elektra movie too back in the like 20 years ago. You might not have I've seen those because they're easily forgettable, but they were still kind of getting their feet wet with superhero movies. But Superman came out in the late 70s. Keep in mind, you had Star Wars, Superman, and Star Trek come out in the late 70s. And then for the next 10 years, you just had hit after hit of these mega pop culture, just popcorn movies that are just, like Goonies and Gremlins type of movie. And E.T., which in retrospect doesn't hold up to me. But Goonies and Gremlins definitely holds up. And Raiders of the Lost Ark and the whole, Indiana Jones type of stuff. And well, Blade Runner, what was that, 82? I mean, like, you could just keep naming movies from like 75 to 1990. There's just hit after hit, and then about 1990, everything just kind of ended for some reason. And it's weird to look around today and like try to go back to that 10-year period of the 80s and look at modern Hollywood and you're like, oh, what happened to you people? You guys legitimately knew your business in the 80s. You really were, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, to be a kid and go see that in the theater. Um, and to expect as a kid to think, oh, well, Hollywood will just keep doing this kind of stuff. Like every month, Hollywood's going to come out with a movie of that caliber, you know. And right about the end of the late and God, what was Big Trouble in Little China? Or even the B list movies of the '80s. You look back in retrospect, and Big Trouble in Little China would have been, I think, a B list movie compared to at least the massive hit of like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. And you think, oh yeah, they're just gonna keep coming out with these movies every month. It's just gonna be like forever, and then it just ended. What happened to Hollywood? Anyway, so Superman came out in the late 70s, and he had four fun, silly movies. Everyone has already at least seen parts one and two. Movies are available online. They hold up really well because the lead actor was such a serious actor in a campy role. The other characters were comic book silly, but Christopher Reeves was not playing a comic character. He was the serious straight man surrounded by cartoons, and it worked. Kids absolutely loved the movies. But if Gunn thinks he's going to recreate the magic of an origin story, he is out of his sweet child loving mind. There is none of that magic left in Hollywood. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the Nicolas Cage, Kevin Smith, Superman movie. It's on, I don't know what it's on. It's on various platforms. It is it's a little background in the insanity of Hollywood, where the hairdresser gets out there and starts making movies. That's a really good movie. Knowing Hollywood, they'll probably make Superman BLT, played by Elliot Page, as the rumor goes, because it's Joker 30 outside, and these skies predict dark and clowny storms. Anyway, so Henry Cavill was doing The Witcher and left because the writers over there didn't want to stick to the story universe, so he leaves to his credit and goes back to doing Superman, which, if I read in between the lines of the Warner Brothers, I think their commitment to him was getting a little loose over the years. Like, there are times to talk about the plot of the next film. You make sure that everyone has a time commitment penciled out. It's on a calendar, like a memorandum of understanding. It's a pre-contract where they move into the negotiation of the actual contract and they start working on the film proper. But I'm guessing that Warner Brothers was just not reaching out to Cavill's agents and talking about the next film. Like, the phone calls just never came. Then The Rock said he had to fight to get him in Black Adams, which is weird because Cavill has had more successful films than The Rock, if I remember right. And The Rock is just coming off that the Jungle Book, which I think lost $100 million. So congratulations on that. Because they kind of like dialed down the male role in the film and made the chick more part of the film, because, I don't know, feminism or something. And as it turns out, feminism is really lame, and the movie lost money. But anyway, and it's totally lame. Warner Brothers didn't want Cavill in the end scene because it meant that he would be in a sequel, and the whole thing is weird because Black Adams also didn't make money. Came close, but And because, and follow me here, it was woke. Like I said, compared to 2008 Iron Man, the bad guys are in 2008 Iron Man are the bad guys in that area in real life. You know what I'm saying? So it made sense. And Stark Industries sold them weapons, and that was bad also. The story had nuance because America also sells weapons to everyone, so they can kill and maim each other, and then call America the Great Satan. Which now, as I say that out loud, it sounds kind of weird that America sells weapons. It's the world's weapons provider, and then it gets all the hatred around the world, which fuels more terrorists. Now that I think about it, none of this makes sense. What a weird country. Also doesn't seem like a country that's going to be one for very much longer. Anyway, in Black Adams, all the good guys were Pox, mostly a Pox-Wox woman, because of course, and the antagonists were British, so the British are acting like the warlords stealing minerals, like the Chinese in Africa right now. The Chinese are actually in Africa right now. Perhaps you've seen Empire of Dust. It's also tiresome. I reference that quite often, but it's appropriate. But of course, they can't make the Chinese the exploiters of the marginalized and oppressed people of whatever stand, so they replace them from the English. I mean, you could use the bad guys from that area right now, warm, sandy places. The ones who are removing women's rights. Those guys? Well, plot twist, they're not English. But Hollywood in 2022 didn't want to show non-European woke people, non-Europe people in a negative light, so every woke storyline will be blonde man bad. Like, literally, that's the future of Hollywood post-2020 BLM summer of love riots. So Black Adam bombed because it was just the same boring trope of ignoring all the evil the rest of the world does on a daily basis and focusing on the English. Why would I want to see the same story told every 6 months? Dear Hollywood, you can make Middle Eastern or African people the antagonists. Yes, you really can. They did it in 2008. So Henry Cavill, it's like that scene in Airplane where they're walking through the metal detectors. So Henry Cavill in the end of that movie is painfully stupid now, as is all of Hollywood. So your Black Adams and Superman are having a little tete-a-tete to presage the sequel. Or the next movie. It might not be a direct sequel, but where both characters are going to be in the movie. So you put that scene in the movie knowing that none of those guys were going to be in the future of your DC universe. Kind of weird. So anyway, I think the only highlight of the superhero genre is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, and that's it. They're not going to race swap the characters because only one of the characters is human. Which is why Guardians of the Galaxy is a massive, massive hit, is because it's like it wasn't exactly woke or not woke, but there's only one human in the movie, the Chris Pratt character. Anyway, people are ready to see the penultimate and then the concluding story of Superman, and when Cavill hits 50, he passes the role over to someone else, perhaps his kid he had in one of the movies, but James Gunn was not interested in that. He really loves the kids. It's funny, he got outed for telling all these jokes about kids, and like that just came and went, and the stuff he said was not something you move on from. And do I think he legitimately hurting kids? No, you have to see actual evidence for that. I think he doesn't have a screw. I think something he's not wired correctly. But I also think that should have been a bigger deal in Hollywood. Not that you punish him forever for that, but that it was acceptable for him to be in Hollywood saying this kind of stuff, and like no board of directors took him aside and say, hey, you're gonna have to knock this off, delete all those tweets, knock it off in the future. We just can't work with you in the future. Right? Like, you're great, you're very talented, but you can't have this kind of stuff where you're talking about doing these things that you're talking about doing to kids. It's like that went on for years and years, just openly on Twitter, and that was just accepted. Anyway, so is he going to tell 79 Superman all over again? But it'll be all Pox because that's the goal of the Hollywood. Call me crazy, but do you think you're going to see a Superman that bears any relation to the original story? I don't know if they'd swap out the actual lead character, Kal-El. That might be a bridge too far for people. But Hollywood post-2020 BLM riots is absolutely insane, so you never know. If I remember right, there is a non-fair Superman. I don't remember his name. He's a super-powered character from the planet, which, I mean, it's like even doing that kind of stuff is, hey, we got Nubia for Wonder Woman. It's like, just stop. you don't have to be all things to all people, but it's like at least they developed another character for it, so it's like that's I guess that's fine. Um, I think there was talk of getting that movie into production with Michael Jordan playing Superman. And they're trying to cash in on that Wakanda Black Panther part one kind of money. And would it be that level of hit? Probably not, because Wakanda is a whole story universe set in Africa. Even a Black Superman is still an alien character from a different galaxy. So I don't think you're gonna, like there's a certain energy around Black Panther part one that you're just not going to replicate unless you have something very similar to that. They did a sequel and it didn't bomb, but it wasn't the stellar hit because it's called Black Panther, but you don't have the guy in it because he passed from cancer. It's like it's weird that you wouldn't just replace the character, or at least I don't know. Anyway, or make a sequel in the first place before at least you're ready to replace characters. Like maybe you should have waited a year to. I don't know. But to be fair, I don't think the new Superman is going to hit hard because people liked Henry Cavill. The feeling was that he was underwritten. The writers messed up Batman and Superman, both the individual characters in all their movies and in the movie itself. But Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman came along to save the day. Now, from Warner Brothers' perspective, all those movies underperformed, and they did. They definitely did. Batman versus Superman should have been a monster hit. They had now that I think about it, like the comic that came out in the '80s. Like, what if they had followed that comic a little bit closer? It would have been a different movie. I wonder if it would have been a cooler film. Anyway, so they had I wish I hadn't given that graphic novel away. They had the budget and technology, but they didn't have the writers. And DC had a string of bombs. They had Birds of Prey and both the self deletion squads, part one and two, I think, both lost money. I didn't realize part two lost so much money. And then, Wonder Woman 84 lost money, right? That lost like over $100 million. But, oh no, I lost like, I think it lost even more than that. I mean, they had the Wu Flu to blame because that was the first post Wu Flu movie, so nobody was going to the theaters. So they had like the perfect defense against that. But then you look at the movie, like, yeah, the movie would have bombed no matter what. Like you're very lucky the Wu Flu hit. Anyway, so from their perspective, they want to start with a clean slate instead of just getting new writers. And then they have the Flash, which is coming out I don't know when, which is has to bomb, right? Because the actor is out of his effing mind. He should have been. I don't know what was his first movie in that universe. I don't even remember the DC movies because they're even more forgettable than anything else. He should have been replaced. Like he should never have been hired in the first place. You telling me that like the casting agent and his director, like they're familiar with him from the TV shows he does. They sit down and then they do like script reading and like samples and stuff with him live, and like you never got a vibe. Like you took him out to lunch and just talked to him for a couple hours. Like you never got a like this guy was going to be a major player in your universe. You'd sit down and like talk to this guy for several hours. Like going for, hey, let's go walk around the block a little. Let's just shoot the breeze for 3 hours. Like you're going to be in billions of dollars of future movies. You're going to be a major secondary character, I'll say, and you might even get your own movie. It's like, yeah, let's go spend the day together. Let's just talk all day. Let's just talk, 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 talk. I want to pick your brains. I want to. And the thing is, by the end of that, you're telling me that the person either didn't bother to do that, or they did that and they didn't come across with a vibe like, yeah, this guy's just not playing with a full deck. He looks great visually and he can act. He can play the role, but he's not firing on all eight cylinders, and he might be doing something on the outside that makes his life a little bit weird. It's weird that they never picked up on that, but it's like the James Gunn stuff, like him talking about kids was fine, and they also cheered for Weinstein for decades, and it's like that was fine too. It's like there's a lot of stuff about Hollywood you look at, and the more you look at it, you realize, yeah, you really can't support it in any capacity. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.